Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mercedes Sprinter camper van build. This is episode 11 and today we'll walk through how we installed wall and ceiling panels. This step is going to be a huge change visually by covering up most of the unfinished areas, offering a glimpse into what the finished van will look like. So let's jump in. In terms of tools and materials, here's the list. So we'll need a 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood, tack cloths, we'll need some adhesive. I used PL marine sealant for this. We'll need self-tapping screws, Loctite, a plunge cut track saw, and I'll talk about that in a minute, a jigsaw with the splinter guard, and I'll talk about that in a minute, panel holder poles, a sander, a 12-volt plug-in converter to test the lights before our 12-volt system is operational, and I've linked all of these items below in the description. All right, step number 1, cutting the panels to size. For both the ceiling and wall panels, I used 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. It's very high quality, and as far as plywood goes, it looks great, so you can stain it if you want to, or paint it depending on the look that you're going for. We start by carefully measuring and cutting the plywood panels. For straight cuts, I highly recommend using a plunge cut track saw. No more freehand with the circular saw. Trying to stay on a line, you really can't see very well anyway because of the sawdust. So it made a huge difference for me, and it's very important when the cut edges of these panels fit side by side with no trim, right? They really do need to be near perfect cuts. So I bought this Makita saw and track you see here, and it worked very well for me. Another saw I invested in was this Festool jigsaw. So I had an old jigsaw that wasn't great for finish work. In fact, it was bad for finish work, but the Festool has a splinter guard, which is critical when cutting plywood due to the different layers, the thin layers of wood. So check out the cuts side by side here. You can see it's pretty much night and day, I'd say. So obviously the clean cut is the one with the Festool splinter guard. All right, on to step 2, test fitting the panels. So once cut, I temporarily installed each panel to ensure everything fits, perfectly. I also added extra support and furring strips behind the areas where I would need to mount things like a TV and an air conditioning unit. After ensuring the panels fit well, it was time to move on to step 3, which is finishing the panels. For this van, we decided to stain the ceiling panels and paint the walls. I thoroughly sanded each panel, dusted them off, and wiped them clean with a tack cloth. For staining, I chose Minwax polyurethane in warm satin. Initially, I tried the spray version of this. It worked, but it was a bit difficult to get the heavy coat I wanted, so brushing it on turned out to be much more effective. After the first coat dried overnight, I lightly sanded again before applying a final coat for a polished look. So again, here are the steps. Number 1, sand. Number 2, wipe it off with paper towels. Number 3, use a tack cloth to get any of the fine dust off. Number 4, stain. And number 5, let dry overnight. And then again, I just repeated these steps. Step 6, sand. Step 7, wipe it off. Step 8, tack cloth. 9, second coat of stain, and I usually went a little heavier with this coat. And then step 10, let dry. Now I did this longer as well because after the second coat, obviously that's the finished coat, and then you're going to be handling the panels as well, right? So you don't really want to leave fingerprints in them, or you could wear gloves as well, but you don't want to leave glove prints, or glove marks in them either. Okay, now on to step 4, installing the ceiling panels. So when installing the panels, I started at the front and worked toward the back, attaching the ceiling panels securely using PL marine sealant and finishing screws. So I used adjustable support poles also to help hold the panels in place while attaching. And you can see here, I placed a furring strip at the very front under the edge of the headliner. So this allowed the headliner to come down just a 1/2 inch to create a seamless connection between the headliner and the first ceiling panel. So as I installed each ceiling panel, I wanted to test the lights as well to ensure the wiring was good prior to moving on. That way, if it wasn't, I could fix it or do whatever I needed to do at that point. So to do this, I used a plug-in 12-volt converter. So it basically converts 110 or 120 volt electricity to 12 volts. So you can connect it to the lights and then plug it in to test. This allows these 12-volt lights to be tested before the 12-volt battery system is in place. One of the other things I did was use a laser guide that helped me align the screws perfectly, you know, so you could see them in a straight line as they went down the van. So this thing suctioned to the ceiling and then shone a light in a straight line down the ceiling panel so that I could mark or screw in where that laser light was. Now the very back of the van was a little tricky as there's no support beam running across the back like in the middle of the van. So to tackle this, I built angled support pieces and screwed them into the D pillar cross section to provide an attachment point for the panel all the way in the back. So once the panels were installed, I trimmed out around the AC and the fan, and trimming excess material carefully off of the fan trim, right, to achieve a clean look. And just an FYI here, the fan trim, you know, from the manufacturer comes in white, but I was able to buy a black trim piece to match the rest of the interior trim. One final note on installing stained panels: you want to ensure the panels are all cut and installed with the grain going in the same direction. If you don't, they can just look different, like the back panel here. These are the same panels, stain, everything is the same, but when you look at them across the grain, they look the same. The problem is the grain is going sideways on the back panel and front to back on all the others. So it just looks different, right? And that's not great. I did end up replacing this with a new panel, right? So it all looked the same. Now step 5, the wall panels. So the wall panel installation followed a similar approach. Make sure you've got the panels cut to fit, and then just put them in place. Again, I used an adjustable support poles to hold these pieces in place while I screwed them in. And since the paneling is only a 1/4 inch thick, it conforms to the curve of the van wall with a little pressure. The last thing to note on the wall panels is I used painter's tape to mark where the wall furring strips were. Just an easy way to know where to screw the wall panels in once the furring strips are covered. And finally, for the slider door interior panels, I removed the original plastic OEM panels and used them as templates to cut the plywood. After cutting the plywood, I sanded and finished the panels, then installed sound deadening material and insulation to the slider. Using plus nuts at the top and bottom and the OEM clips that held the plastic for the middle section, I attached the plywood panels. You want to make sure the door lock and handle are easily accessible after this, and you know, when putting the bolts in, make sure to use thread locker, something like Loctite, to ensure they don't rattle loose. And that's it. The van now has beautifully finished walls and ceilings. If you have questions, let me know in the comments, and the materials and tools used today are linked below. So if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and join me in future videos as we will be getting into flooring and then eventually electrical systems and water systems. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Yay, vans!